Jump into the fire.
Saturday Night Live thing.
Saturday Night Live. What up? Instagram. We are about to go live on YouTube with the Delta Force, Michael Nelson, Cory
Saturday Night
Wong.
Live thing.
Oh, we're live
Saturday
on
Night Live.
YouTube. What? All right, what's up, people?
Yes.
Hey,
Yes.
What's good?
The gang is here.
good to be together.
What's up?
Oh my gosh. Hey, thank you guys so much for hopping on this live stream. I had this idea the other day about showing some behind the scenes footage, and then I just kicked around an email to all of y'all and was like, you know what? I think this just would be way cooler, and I miss all of you, and this is happening. So yeah, thanks for
Thanks for putting this together. It's fun to
Thank
see
you,
you all.
Grace.
too. And we're all in our studios,
That's
We
right.
are.
rocking.
Our little
I-
buddies.
Definitely quarantined in my studio, that's for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of quarantine, let's jump in. And obviously, this conversation can go wherever it may go. I have some questions. And y'all, while you're watching live, if you have questions, get at us. We are live on my YouTube page. So
And
let's
I'm trying to
start.
find it so I can see the questions.
Oh, yeah. So if you just go to youtube.com/Grace Kelly Music, you'll see we're live. What up, Hidden Hood, Owen, Bruno, people. Oh, yeah. So if you just go to,
Yeah.
I think you found it.
Yep. I just got to mute.
Oh.
I'm going to mute it.
Okay.
Ooh, all right. I see Hidden Hood. I see Owen Shannon.
So, we're here with the Delta Force, Alekos, Kenny, myself, Michael, Nelson in the house, brilliant arranger, our horn coach, Cory Wong, who brought us all together, wrote the incredible music. You all know him well. I think, the first question is, how are you all doing since the pandemic? What's life been like? We almost started talking about this beforehand, and I was like, wait, save it. So,
Well,
yeah.
Cory is clearly hungry during the pandemic.
Why don't you go ahead and start off, Kenny?
What you got there?
Yeah. Well, when we all after the recording for all of this, I mean, we all went, with Jack to the pho restaurants, and that just kind of brings back that whole vibe, Cory, of all of us eating our noodles and slurping happily and being a part of that hang.
That was a
right.
good place.
That was like yeah, maybe just like 2 months before quarantine happened. So there wasn't
Right.
a lot of activity that really happened, at least for me. I mean, I had gigs and some sessions, but yeah, it's been over 4 months now.
Jeez,
Quarantine.
yeah.
So
Insane.
insane.
Has life changed a lot
It's
for you
really
guys?
hot.
We kind of, obviously live shows went, but as far as your flow of day to day, because I know a lot of you are working in the studio and do your thing, and I've been online doing your thing. What's changed the most on a day to day vibe?
I think for me, it's been, well, I actually, when this whole thing started, March 10th or whatever it was, my last gig was March 8th. And right after that, I actually had 2 weeks planned to record an album or to write an album. And
Your album.
yeah, I had set aside 2 weeks already. So when it started going down, just figured, all right, I'm already going to be in the studio for a couple weeks writing my record. My kids are on spring break, going to be chilling at home. Kind of couldn't end up being more perfect, naively said. And
3
Then-
months later.
yeah, I just kept going. Then eventually had to adjust to distance learning with my kids at home,
Right.
doing that sort of thing, which was difficult, but also kind of fun and cool and different. And then it just was a lot more writing and low pressure creativity, because as an artist, it was almost more like, okay, we have no option other than to hit the reset button. And now all expectations are kind of lifted. Your whatever release calendar, whatever release schedule, whatever your flow was going to be, it is not that anymore. And now you kind of get to decide
Mm.
what the next several months look like and how you're going to either take some time away or how you're going to take advantage of the time you have to be at home. And for me, I got into a different creative flow with just writing a bunch of things that I wouldn't have normally been able to do when I was on the road, recording a bunch of things remotely, working with the Hornheads and a bunch of stuff recording remotely where they were normally they're in the same room doing their thing. We were recording and writing a bunch of stuff together remotely. And a lot of my friends who didn't have their remote games set up now do have it set up, which is in a way cool. But I think also just navigating and self-reflecting on how we interact with humanity and how we interact with the environment, we had no choice but to really analyze that if we were paying attention.
Yeah. It's like a super sprint for so many people. So many
Yeah.
artists, especially if
Yeah.
you weren't equipped before. It's like this is the way that we're all communicating.
Yeah, everybody had to kind of tweak their systems. I know Steve Strand had a home recording system, but I sent him one of my nice microphones, one of my nice ribbon mics, just kind of enhance that because, like Cory said, that's what I was doing was mainly working on several of the projects that Cory had on the schedule for, April, end of April, early May, and so it was mainly I was writing, and so I was kind of cleaning that stuff up. But once that got set aside, kind of reassess things and started going. But of course, as you guys know, the other thing that happened was the whole George Floyd thing, which is literally less than a mile from my house. I'm on this, on 38th Street. I drove by that, going to the co-op, which was maybe 3 blocks past that, is my regular route on a almost daily basis. So, and the 3rd precinct that burned is my precinct. So that all happened in my neighborhood while the quarantine was going on. So it was, it's pretty traumatic, events. I mean, we were sitting, just standing out on our balcony. You could smell the smoke and you could hear hear what was going on, and the helicopters were around, and it was pretty crazy. So between getting quarantined, which at first, like Cory was saying, it's kind of, this is kind of nice, and we can focus on stuff, and we did some. I'm really excited with the stuff we did, but then it just got more complicated, and and being stuck and stuff. So for me, artistically, I've been struggling a bit. I've been struggling to be in a good place, and fortunately, the stuff that Cory sends me is so inspiring and fun that when I get that, it breaks me out of it. I go, okay, I can dig into this and I can escape for a while and create this. And then I send it to Kenny and Steve, and we get these things done. And then I have to admit, I listen to it a lot more than I would normally. I listen to it over and over, and I just go, yeah. And then I'll go in, and then I come back and I'll tweet,
Make an adjustment, cool. Send a new part.
Yeah. And so that's kind of a fun thing. And to be able to really kind of dig in even maybe a little more. And so, but from a personal standpoint, it's pretty hard. And all the stuff the live stuff, like all you guys know, it was like when that stuff went away, that's the other side of it. You do your recording, you do your writing stuff, but when you get out and play with people and you get that instant feedback, that's a pretty hard thing for an artist to let go of.
And Mike, I can relate with you super well on just sort of maybe not feeling as creative at times, or feeling motivated, or just feeling like excited to do certain things. And for me, it's felt like this phase game where there will be like a stretch of like 3-4 days where I kind of snap out of feeling like kind of depressed by seeing the news every day, and maybe like not having as much social interaction as I'm normally used to. And I'll finally have like a stretch where like, okay, I'm feeling motivated, and I won't let anything else come in front of it, because I know it won't come as consistently as it was before. So it's kind of trying to like seize the opportunity when you're like, okay, some really great ideas came to me. I want to write, or I want to put this into my program, or I want to shed certain things. And then when it doesn't happen for me, I find myself like, I need to get outside.
Oh
Like
yeah,
if I get outside, and it's tough when you're living in the city. And obviously when the quarantine measures were harsh, you know, you can't really go anywhere. But
right.
if you're in an area where you can get in nature, like to me, that is the fuel for me personally. If I'm able to get the fresh air and I'm able to like get out and get some exercise, then I can like kind of get back closer to get closer in that zone. And then I can maybe get where I want to get with what's going on. Cause you know, in the beginning of quarantine, I was able to, in the first couple months, I felt much more productive. The last 2 months I felt less productive actually. So it's been a hit or miss, but yeah, I can relate.
Yeah, do you guys? For me, I gotta say that every Thursday, I just can't wait for the next Fearless Flyers to come out. You know,
Yes.
it's kind of like this little extra
Yeah.
punch that I want to hear Jack's mix of it. I want to see the video because
Yeah.
you know we didn't get to see all that stuff. You know, we were
It's so
there.
exciting. It's like a
Yeah.
pig in my heart. I'm like,
But,
Fearless Flyers. How many of y'all feel that watching live? I know I mean, it was interesting what you were saying, Michael, about listening to Cory's songs and them brightening up your day. I definitely feel like that every time I see, the new Fearless Flyers single, and it really brings back all these happy memories. And
Yeah.
I definitely feel like
It was funny seeing Jack kind of float around on the corner of your eye. I remember looking up once. He had a smile behind the camera. You know, it was a funny thing, and he's just kind of going everywhere, every shot, and it's like Cirque du Soleil or something. You know,
Yeah.
flying all over the place.
And those, I mean, it was really only very minimal amount of takes, and I was also really amazed at Jack's iPhone game of he never tripped over chords. Like,
well, the chord
Wow.
management is getting a lot of attention, a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of praise. So
Yeah, shout out to Sound City. Well, and that's kind of the fun thing too. Like you're saying, Grace, I think for some of you guys, for those of you that haven't been a part of any other Flyers or Wolfpack style session, and for Jack to not, so there's two sides of this. You guys maybe went through a different process than you were used to, but I think for Jack also, there's normally not as much front end work on a lot of these. And I don't mean that in a, like, it's just flippantly going into a session, but clearly going into this session, we needed to have a lot of arrangement stuff together. You guys as a horn section, there had to be stuff written, worked out ahead of time, written ahead of time. And this is actually the first album that we made where we really used the demos that I put together to actually, you know, work off of and use. And in some cases, kind of note for note exactly in the horn part, note for note, other than some of the improvisational stuff, of course. But I think for you guys, it was fun to watch you have to go through all right, we're just doing 4 takes of this and that's it. And nobody's wearing headphones and we're just
it's like sweating.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Or like 2 takes.
Yeah. In some cases, 2 takes.
Yeah.
And then also, I think like you're talking about, Kenny, seeing Jack smile behind the camera like that, he kept coming up to me saying, I can't believe how easily this is coming together and how it just comes together like this. But he knew it, and he trusted me, and he trusted Michael to come up with the stuff ahead of time and prep the band. And I sent an email out, as you guys know, you were all on the email, just saying, all right, guys, we're showing up gig ready. We're showing up in a way where you're comfortable enough with the material to just play it as a gig. And that already kind of set the tone for preparing.
I'm so glad you sent that email.
Right.
Yeah.
And with the demos and the charts. And
it was funny watching Nate though. When he first saw that set of drums, there's a lot of drums.
Oh God.
There's a lot of drums here.
he had to kind of find them. You're
Right,
like,
right.
where?
that was a complete surprise, right?
Hysterical.
And he goes, "How many drums are there?" All of them drums. All of the drums there.
Did he know that it was going to be that big a set, Cory?
We told him there was a different idea for the kit. Jack, Jack,
That's all the warning he got.
yeah, Jack had a
Different
vision.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a snare drum.
Beyond the kick snare hat. And fortunately, I don't remember exactly, but I know that Matt Chamberlain, the legendary session cat drummer, has a room maybe next to Sound City or in Sound City. I don't know how many other rooms. Anyways, those drums might have been, I think those were his drums.
Wow.
And we just said, what's the biggest kit you got?
Amazing.
Give it to us. And the engineer emailed me. He's like, dude, I mean, we have a gigantic kit. Are you sure you mean the biggest kit? Like, yeah, give me the biggest kit you got. And Jack just said, as many toms as we can get. That's the thing. And I think, yeah.
And I think
Nate
Jack,
said, "Oh wow," like 6 times in a row
right.
when he first saw it. It was kind of like, and they were spaced out. They're like, "Wow,
And
wow."
Jack kept saying, "Use the toms. Use the toms."
Yeah.
All of them.
And I was really excited to see how the it was Kauai, right? No, it was Ambush. Sorry.
The metal
metal song, because I'd never heard, because we had left and we went to eat and you guys did that song after we left, and that came out. I was like, man, I can't wait to hear how Nate plays on this. And I was like, dude, this is like
Yeah.
what?
That's pretty fun.
Yeah.
You know, we you were briefly going into it, Cory, but I think the folks who are live they're very curious to hear about the composition process, and Michael, love to hear about what your guys' process was for initially putting the songs together, composing, arranging, and then I'd love to get a little sax nerdy.
Yes.
We'll allow that.
Someone specifically asking about process for Ace of Aces.
So, right, I'm trying to find, I've been cleaning up actually the first month of quarantine here was switching over to a new laptop.
Ooh.
Getting all those licenses over. But I'm going to see if I can pull up one of my sessions and have this because I want to play some of the demos.
Heck yeah.
In the background. Well, yeah, as far as composition process, Ace of Aces was part of the first Fearless Flyers record, and that one was based off of, here's a couple grooves, and it's basically a riff and an A section. And then each A section, everybody has a specific thing they're hitting at. And I think what sometimes people interpret, sorry, I was pulling up a session. I was loosely distracted. Now I'm not. Sometimes in a song like that,
loosely distracted. Wow.
What can happen is you have the line, and then it's just, we're jamming on a dominant chord. But what people don't realize is, here's the bullseye of the line, and then on this A section, we're shooting at triple 20s. On this A section, we're shooting at triple 17s. On this A section, we're shooting at triple 2s or whatever. If you're looking at a dartboard, that's sometimes how I like to visualize it. But basically, specific things happening for each of those A sections, broken up by that one. And then I wanted to reflect the same thing in the horn arrangement, basically sending it to Michael, him saying, all right, what's the vision? All right, it's Earth, Wind, and Fire meets Michael Jackson. Here's some ideas. Here's kind of what we're doing on this one. The first A section is this sort of line. On this sort of line, we're playing this thing. On the third A section, Mark plays he has a little bit different implied harmony. We can change what we do. And then Michael interpreting that. And we went back and forth a few times, right. But the majority, I would say 80% of it is just based off of his interpretation of the original recording plus my direction, because I wanted him to have some creative output and creative input, I guess, also into
right. And I think that, I mean, just like you were saying, when I remember what the email you sent me, because I think that may have been the first one we worked on, and it literally was each section you wanted a different tune, not like a way different tune, but it was a slightly different. Well, this one is, like you said, is Earth, Wind, and Fire. This is more of a Tower Power thing. This is, but then you have specific. But we play this line at the end of it and hit this. This is what that is. Make sure you hit that thing. And so those cascading kind of thing where those were originally the unison guitar line, and then I spread them out. So there there are specific target points of this needs to be with the rhythm section. Otherwise, the rest of it is this has to be this vibe. And then the next, after that turnaround, then this next one has a slightly different attitude and a slightly different attitude. And so it just kind of progressed through these things. It was really a fun thing to kind of process through, because I don't know that I've ever written a song that way, you know.
Yeah.
And it I mean, I love how it turned out. And the other trick with three saxes is, you know, you say, okay, you want it like Tower Power, so you want the Barry to be, you know, barking some stuff, but the minute, you know, I give Grace some Barry stuff, then I only have two voices left. And so the Barry chair was literally a kind of a double on its own. It's like you were playing two roles. You were playing the third sax part and the Barry part. And so you had, you know, that's why you were jumping around.
It was that like a lot of octave stuff.
Yeah. And because
when
otherwise,
I was it was like,
That's why you needed two berries.
yeah, literally one of my berries broke.
But yeah, then you know, I'd send a little MIDI demo to Cory, and yeah, that works, that doesn't, I like this, I don't like that, and we tweak it, and it, you know, it actually, I mean, the flow was pretty sweet, you know. I mean, because I think I got enough information from Cory as to what his vision was, yet it gave me enough freedom to just kind of do my thing, and that just kind of allowed it to really come together pretty easily for the most part.
One of the coolest things is how the balance worked out. I mean, it just, everything fell into place like a puzzle, and the pre-planning was beautiful. And so that when that all came together, but there was still a kind of a loose flavor to it, so it didn't sound like real rigid. And I was just always amazed, you know, listening back to these later, just the flow and how, you know, certain things came here and certain things came there, and it all worked into this kind of homogenous mix. I don't know, it's different than a lot of things that I've heard that I was really happy about it.
I agree, Kenny. Go ahead, Gareth. Go ahead.
I was just saying it was an interesting thing to all come together, you know, the saxes, and we really, well, Alekos, you and I know each other a bit from our LA days, but I think we've only played like a couple times before. So suddenly to try to find that fluidity as a section and do it, you know, within just a few days.
Right.
Well, it's a few days, a few minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we were recording, you know, right out of the gate, so you had to find that very quickly, and that just goes to the level of professionalism that this group has, just, you know, and that Cory set up, you know, come gig ready, and everybody was ready, and then it was just fine tuning right away. It wasn't, oh, how does this go, or, you know, I mean, it was just like, and of course, you know, talking about, you know, me being the horn coach. I mean, a lot of that was, you know, having you guys run it was more me just making sure I wrote the right notes, you know, but and then you get to play it a couple times and refine it, and then it's like, and then of course the rhythm section had played together before and had played some of these things, but not all of them. So,
you know what, I was just gonna say one thing. You know, I think that something that's just super unique is that I feel like seeing how unique Wolfpack is in terms of how they've been able to garner this, like, their fan base on and through Fearless Flyers as well, obviously, like being this band that's from Wolfpack, and the fact that we can have three saxes and it be this cool thing that, like, most people, when you normally see a horn section, you always assume there's going to be brass in there, but you don't really often see three saxes super tight in this kind of setting, you know. So like, I remember,
sorry.
I was just and I was just so pleasantly surprised and like delighted by how cool the whole formation turned out to be, with three saxes being super tight, and how it never felt like, from the arrangements that you wrote, Mike, that there wasn't everything, like, even though there were so many different parts, everything's always worked and didn't feel like there were too many things going on, because the foundations of the arrangements that Cory had laid out, like he said, from part to part, opened up a lot of that space for us to do all these different things. And I thought that was just like super fun to dive into.
Heck yeah. How did this idea even come about, Cory? About adding the Delta Force? That probably should have been one of the questions. But as Alekos was talking, I'm like, yeah, so how did it come about?
Well, the vision for the Flyers from the beginning has been Jack's thing. And Jack wanted to have a sort of side project to Wolf. And he said, you know, from the beginning, 3 guitars. I don't remember what the story is, but my first recollection is just sitting down, Jack going, I got it. It's called the Fearless Flyers. Wow. It's 3 guitars on stands.
Wow.
The 3 ranges, guitar, baritone guitar, bass, all centered around a drummer. It's got to be Nate Smith. He's the lead flyer. And he just had that vision. And that's, I mean, as you guys know from working with Jack, he brings so much to the table with vision and just these creative ideas that can spark. Oh, cool. Well, then we have as options. And he and I will, like, through this whole project, we've, from the first record, have just been rapping back and forth about what the options are. And then me helping him bring some of those things to light and getting some of the organizational stuff there. But we were just sitting around, okay, what can we do for the baritone guitar? Obviously, it'll be Dart and I. And Lettieri started doing his baritone funk Thursdays or something on Instagram. So it's like, no brainer. Boom. Cold email Mark, in. Cold email Nate Smith, in.
Wow.
And then after 2 records, it's like, okay, let's build this thing up. Here's a couple different ideas. Do we do 3 saxes? Do we add a singer? Do we do 3 trombones? Nobody wants that, Michael.
Oh,
That was on the table?
Yeah, I had to give him help. Do we know 3 trombone play? No.
You got to go to Latin America for that.
And then it eventually was like, okay, let's keep it symmetrical. Let's do the flying V. Let's go saxophones. And then it was just, all right, who and what do we want to do? And honestly, you guys were the first people that we talked about, and that's great. I mean, it's for Alekos, it was fun because he's another U of M cat that has a lot of history with the other guys in Wolf as well. Alekos played my first ever Cory Wong gig when I'd started doing this sort of music. I did a gig in LA and couldn't really bring a lot of band out. Alekos helped me put a section together, played sax with me. Kenny, I've known for years, just around Minneapolis. And Grace, you and I started interacting on Instagram
Yes.
a couple years ago, just like, hey, when you're in New York, hit me up. Hey, when you're in Minneapolis, hit me up. And then we've just never crossed paths. It seemed like a no-brainer. We got this project. We can finally do the thing that we've wanted to do. Play.
I'm so excited to get that message.
Hell yeah,
Like,
man.
oh.
It's an honor,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask, was the visual aspect of Fearless Flyers also so well formed from the beginning of the outfits? And I know you said the guitars, the flying in the air, but you know, I think with Wolfpack and with Fearless Flyers, you guys have an incredible way of obviously having incredible music, but the visual aspect is so its own thing, and people really know that. What's that process like?
Well, I think Jack is also a great designer and has a great eye. So he's always thinking about that sort of stuff. And maybe that's from him growing up with Rob Stenson, who they worked on Wolf Compressor together. Rob's done a bunch of design stuff, and they're great friends. And Rob's got an insane eye, one of the best designers I've ever seen. But I think Jack just has that thing that's just built into Beyond the Music, where a lot of people, you know, just like a lot of musicians will show up on the gig and not think about what they're going to wear. And then you get to that point where you realize what you wear matters and how you present yourself matters beyond just, am I making the changes? And then there's other levels of awareness, other levels of what you're aiming at and what matters to you. And I think for Jack, that visual thing is high up there. And yeah, so from the beginning, it was a wardrobe gig.
So we had the wardrobe ready for us as soon as we walked in.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody knew this. I don't know if we mentioned it, but one of the ideas Jack was thinking of putting all the saxes on VR headsets to read the chart.
I don't remember if I told you guys that. I didn't.
Our jaws were on the
Oh my
ground.
God.
Our jaws are on the ground.
We were, and a buddy of mine that
Oh.
lives in Minneapolis, his son works for the Paramount, like their future division or something. I said, can they put PDFs in these VR headsets? He was looking into it, but
Can you
it never.
imagine? Oh my gosh.
Popping around.
I was
He
already
asked-
sweating, you guys, going into the session. Actually, I was really, I ended up getting really sick with food poisoning the night before, which this session I was looking forward to for so long, for months. And I woke up at 4 a.m. the morning before being like, are you kidding me? And so I literally was sweating walking in. But let me just say, I'm very grateful that we got to use iPads.
Yeah.
You pull the Michael Jordan. You pull the Michael Jordan.
Dude.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
ate the whole pizza.
Yeah.
I think playing music and being with all of you really distracted me, but there's like some footage that I watch back and I'm just literally sitting down and looking like I'm bored out of my mind, which usually I'd be psyched beyond, you know, I'd
Right.
just be up and be ready, but I remember
Even your
God
berry
pulled
got
me
sick
through.
a little bit. We had to do surgery
yeah.
on the berry.
Yeah.
That goes
It's-
started. We had the pieces laid out, and
It fell apart. It literally.
it fell apart. That's the 2 parts that you wrote, Mike. You just destroyed that.
So
berry.
hot. The berry fell apart. Kenny, you saved the day.
Oh my
And it was
God.
hilarious because I think at one point, Corey, you and everyone else was like in the control room and it was like we hadn't played anything in I think like 10 minutes, like 15 minutes. I think you might have poked your head out being like, yo, like what's
Yeah.
up?
much
Literally the
time?
saxophone was falling apart.
10 minutes, 5 minutes, maybe 6 minutes now. You know, it's
Oh my gosh. Well, you guys, I found some really cool footage of the Delta Force rehearsing some stuff. I figured I'd play just a little bit of it, and specifically a moment, Michael, where you're kind of going over some articulation stuff with us, and you could probably guess what song we're working on. It was the fastest one.
Until the next one.
right.
Yes, until the next one. Any guesses, everybody, online? What song we're jamming?
I remember Assassin was giving me a little run for my money at one point. So I don't know if that one.
Yeah. Assassin Panic.
Let's take a quick watch of this. And for those of you who are watching online, if you want to put headphones on or play it a little bit louder, it might be easier to hear some of us talking during it. And then let's just talk about it a little bit. All right, here we are.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah, a little presentation style. Okay.
What happened there?
See, Michael's unfazed. He's used to hearing all that.
Yeah, right.
Oh God.
That's while Swendy.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll tighten that up. But then here, all three of you, so you're, make sure we're all doing that, letter 25. Bar 25.
Okay.
Let's take the bar before that, bar before 25. So we're talking about, Grace, is just making sure not to.
24.
Yeah, bar 24. That's not slurring into the ba, ba, go ba, ba,
Okay.
ba, ba. You know, kind of almost a release and
Okay.
rearticulation. Hear that right
Yep.
there? Bar before 20. Bar 24 start. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
Sweet.
Now that's gonna just
It's
smoke.
gonna burn. We attempt to be ready so we can go faster. I mean,
Yeah.
pretty fucking fast.
Just a quick moment of that. I think that was right before we wrapped up the sectional.
Yeah, I mean that's those real little subtleties. I mean, once because everybody's so prepared, you can just get down to the finer points. And having you guys never playing together as a section before, I mean, it's a huge ask to come into a session like that and play at that level, which you guys, because you're so phenomenal, absolutely nailed. But it's all those little, that kind of just one time through those things, and you find those little things where one person would interpret a particular phrase one way, or a cutoff or a crescendo, and somebody else would do it another way. With the Hornheads, we were together, been playing together for 20 plus years. And so at a certain point, we didn't have to do that. But anytime you get, new people together, I kind of, Kenny knows how I write and kind of what phrasings. He's used to what I do. But those little things, just that the difference between slurring into a note and having a little separation and a rearticulation make all the difference in tightness and in real expression of any particular phrase. And so, yeah, we didn't have to spend very much time on that kind of stuff. But I think one of the other things that happened was some of the tempos were a little bit of a surprise. And so we had to make, I remember in particular in Colonel Panic, I think there was there was a staccato thing that when it went to the tempo we decided to record it at that session, it was not playable that way. And so immediately, you guys said, can we slur that? And I was like, yeah, it's perfect, because it just wasn't going to be tight. But those tiny little things. And once you go through it, quickly, because everybody already knows their parts, everybody knows what to do. You just do those little refinements and you're ready to rock it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the interesting things that you see in that video there is part of the delegation of the album and how to make something work. Some people are really curious on a band that size or a record in general, how you make it, how you make decisions, how you split up some of the work. And I think for a lot of people, they've had questions. How did you guys make this record? What's the role of everybody in the whole thing? And, Jack and I producing it together, Jack being visionary, overseeing the whole thing, A&R, obviously on camera doing the thing, but also just having the vision for the band in general, then saying, all right, Cory, help the whole project come together in this, me working more with the rhythm section and a little tighter with you and how it interacts with you guys. But as the Delta Force as a whole needed somebody to help, like you see in that. So with Michael being able to kind of get the horn section, boom, this is working this way. This is the best representation and the best presentation of this thing. And then for he and I to figure out how to make it work together in the thing. And then Jack overseeing all of that, kind of looking from a bird's eye view, making sure that none of us get tunnel visioned in anything. Because a lot of times if there's one person doing all of that, I know from my own experience, I can get tunnel visioned in something. It's like if there's 7 people on there and all of a sudden, for whatever reason, the only thing that ever sticks out to you is the way the hi-hat sounds or the way the alto sax sounds.
Yeah, right.
All of a sudden you lose sight of the big picture. So having somebody to focus on the Delta Force, somebody to focus on the rhythm section, and somebody to oversee the whole thing really, I think, is what attributes a lot of how we were able to get it done.
Yeah, it's
So
almost
much.
like we're a team, like a football team. You have a head coach,
That's
an
what I was
offensive
thinking. It's
coordinator,
sports team.
and a defensive coordinator, and all of it comes together because you need to manage the parts, and then you need someone to manage the whole thing. So, yeah.
So who is the most offensive section then?
Probably the saxes, right?
Kenny, I gotta ask, and people are all asking, and Alekos after would love to hear your thoughts about playing these charts. But Kenny,
Sorry.
I just saw her face. I mean, just kind of warming up, and and people are already just commenting like, "Oh my God, that altissimo, his sound just, seems like a general question. Just be like, what's your secret? But what's some whether it's a sound exercise or I know nobody can wake up and play altissimo like that, and this is, years and years and years and years of you being you. But what's something you can kind of give the woodwind peeps about playing notes like that?
Yeah. Yeah. The first question is people go, why? But I think the main thing is if you have a clear enough sound, kind of like a trumpet, then it becomes a general, it's a viable note. If it's clear, if it's in tune, if it's got a real presence to it, then it's worthwhile to play it. And sometimes, if your reed isn't good or, other things with your horn isn't right, then it can sound squeaky. But if you have the right setup And a lot of this is based on an overtone. Like say you play a low B flat on your horn, that's the lowest note on the horn. If you get a very solid overtone from that, that'll be the biggest waveform that you can use. And so if I'm playing even when it's that high, the partials are so close together that literally you can play the lowest note on the horn and use your throat to make that work. So, I can
Oh,
play a little-
please, yes.
See, oh, reed's probably dry, but so just an F. That's the top of the horn.
Yep, turn. Do it again, Ken.
Okay, I'll face away. So that when I'm finally getting to that high note of the high F, I'm just fingering low B flat. So using your
You're fingering a low B flat. Wow.
low B flat, and it's the lowest note of the horn, yet it's the highest note of the horn. So if people can do a lot of those overtone exercises, you can do the octave, fifth, seventh, or octave, seventh, the whole bit.
Right.
That's going to shape your throat to do it. Also, if you think of your airstream, I remember talking to Wayne Bergeron a while back, and because he's a fantastic master trumpet player. That's
Get it! Cory can play higher notes than you.
oh, wow, I didn't hear. Oh my God!
Where's Dave Koz? Where's Dave Koz?
What is that? Is that a soprano?
It's a curved soprano a friend of mine gave me.
Oh my God!
Sammy G sent me this.
Oh, that's awesome!
He found the cheapest curved soprano he could on Amazon and sent it to me.
Actually, it was a tenor, but he threw it in the dryer, and that's what happened.
We're twinning.
It's like about Greenfield.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, Sam. Oh
I so
my God.
wish I had a guitar I could bring in right now and just start it.
That's hysterical.
Oh
wow.
my God.
Well, I got out-dueled by Cory in a meeting. RP.
Wait,
No,
what? You gotta play some notes.
I got a couple.
You gotta.
Ah, frick.
I think I think
Oh,
your
yeah,
reed's
hold on.
dry.
What?
That is so-
I'm entertained. I'm entertained.
That was.
What are we really pulling off silly horns? Is that the?
This actually became show and tell. Here we go. Here we go. Wow. Oh my gosh, that's hysterical.
Yeah, we could do something on a seat.
That is it's some yeah, I'm loving the comments that are coming in just about what you were saying, Kenny, about overtone and stuff. That's yeah.
All right, I messed that whole thing up.
Oh no. I love that.
Oh
Hey,
God,
do
the
you
surprise
know what
factor
note
is
you just played?
that was just too good. So the only way that you can play higher notes than Kenny Holmen is by maybe with the baby sax.
Kenny
With
Hill.
no overtones.
Oh my gosh, look at that comment. Kenny Hill.
Oh my gosh. In the kind of while we're getting real saxy here, Alekos, what are some when you watch, I don't know, that clip or any thoughts that you had for preparing for the session or how it went down? I mean, you absolutely slayed lead alto and
you.
captured that sound and really
For sure.
yeah.
Thank
What's
you.
what was kind of going through your head during the session?
I think, well, as far as the prep for the session, usually when, we had all those, having the charts was really, really helpful. So usually when I'm learning music, I'll just sit with the iPad and I'll just look at the parts before I even play them. I'll just like look through all of them and then I'll try to play through them with the record. I don't think there's really as much of a secret really as far as how I learn them, as far as just maybe taking some of the faster parts and trying to like slow them down. But I guess when we were doing the session, I think the main thing I locking with Kenny was very easy as far as like getting intonation, like we were able to lock. And I think the main thing for me was as long as I can figure out where I'm gonna maybe play a little bit on top of the beat, and where I'm gonna be maybe like, because like when you are playing the lead alto, you know, you are, depending on what the part is, like you're gonna sometimes stick out. So I think when we had a lot of the syncopated parts, I had to sort of like figure out where I was gonna play on top of the beat, or if I was gonna just play it dead center. And I feel like more we rehearsed it, it kind of fell into place.
Yeah, because these parts are a huge trap, because if you lay back for a second, it's all over. You know,
and I did
you'll never catch
sometimes,
it.
and I
Yeah.
did sometimes. I realized, because I think that's my natural tendency. But I think ultimately it did feel tight.
Yes,
So.
yes, absolutely.
I think there's nothing that would show timing. And for me, you know, especially playing the Barry, which is not my main act, but honestly, like gearing up for the session, that was so. I thoroughly enjoyed just trying to get my chops together on the Barry because. But one thing I noticed is playing in the section, like you're saying, Alekos, if you're kind of, both of you, Alekos and Kenny, it's like if I was off for a second, it was just kind of naked. It was there. And I was so nervous because I'm such a huge fan of Joe Dart. And I think I said at the end, I said, Joe, I was like, man, it is such a pleasure playing doubling bass lines with you. Just, but that's a whole nother thing for me too, as far as just try to think about the bass and zero into that frequency and then just feel the groove. Because usually when I'm playing alto parts, it's like a different mind, you know, different space.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's one of the songs that hasn't been released yet. It's literally a duet between the two of you through most of it. You know.
Kauai.
Yeah.
That was fun. And I just loved listening into how Joe was like adding, you know, naturally phrasing it and trying to match that on the Barry.
Right.
Yeah, it was cool seeing you guys adjust to each other on that.
Yeah, it was like it's like a dance. And
Yeah.
especially like, you know, I'm meeting, besides Alekos, I was meeting all of you for the first time. So it's like you got to figure out how to dance with someone pretty quickly.
Yeah. And Joe, we had to sell Joe on that one just a little bit. You know, I mean, he was totally on board once he understood what it was. But, you know, because you had to handcuff him to, if he was going to play a duet with Barry, he couldn't do all his Joe stuff. And so in writing that arrangement, you know, after Cory, you know, wrote that song, and Cory, you played the original bass on that demo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there were some really neat lines in there that I really liked that I incorporated in the arrangement and with a harmony with the Barry. And it was, you know, once I kind of locked into that this was going to be a really cool concept, you know, I know Cory, I think at first you weren't sure about it, but then we both decided this is worth at least giving a shot at. And if it doesn't, I had a plan B, even though, you know, just in case it didn't fall into place. But
yeah.
But once you talked to Joe, he's like, yeah, you know, and then I talked to him after the thing. He said, oh yeah, it was totally worth it. And I think it was. I think it was a really kind of a unique, like you said, it's really a fun little dance. And I mean, the way that group is set up with the big, medium, and little, you know, in mirror image. I mean, it just made sense. We did something like that, you know.
Yeah, it was a beautiful handcuffed dance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, guys, there's a couple more questions. Time is absolutely flying, and you know, questions are coming in online. We got a bunch of peeps watching, which is really cool. I had a question that I'd love to throw around to all of you, which is, you know, one of the things that I love so much about this cast and group of people is your openness about music and genres of music and collaborations, and, you know, with everybody's backgrounds and their own personal music and collaborations you've done, it's quite a widespread. And I thought it would be fascinating if you could throw in your thoughts about advice you would give developing musicians when it comes to opening up your mind musically and you know, music shaming. I don't know if that's a term that any of you use, but my friend brought it up the other day, talking about, you know, he had memories of being in high school and just kind of like thinking something was killing, like a specific record, and someone else is like, that's what are you listening to? And just any thoughts you have for any aspiring musicians when it comes to opening up their mind musically about that stuff. Is that
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine would be
is that a good way to phrase the question?
yeah, just form your own opinion. When I was in music college, I unfortunately had one of my guitar teachers who was a complete jazz snob, hated anything that wasn't straight ahead jazz. And when I was at my most formidable moment as a student of music, told me George Benson was whack. Why? No idea.
Dude.
This guy told me Benson was whack.
It's insecurity, man. Cory, I whenever I see people who do that, it is only from a place of insecurity of that type of player diving into a world that they never dove into, probably most likely.
Sure,
of music, because George Benson is like the most versatile as far as style that he played in. Like the most versatile of all time. Like
legend.
I mean, it's usually from a place of insecurity.
Yeah, I think if you listen to anybody, I mean, I could listen to a student that's just started 2 weeks and they might come up with an idea I've never even thought of. Or let's say, or if I'm listening to Michael Brecker or Dave Liebman, well, maybe I'll listen to, I don't know, Kenny G. There might be one lick that's worth me taking off and learning from. It could be a country tune. It could be several rap guys I listen to just for the rhythms, the percussion and other things. So I'd say be versatile, listen to everything, copy everything, try to do as many things, whether it's Pro Tools, record yourself in a mirror. What do you look like? Are your fingers flying up? Record other people and then see how you compare to that. Write music. If you can do as many things as possible, then you'll be able to discover, who it is that you want to be and how to grow from that. So I don't know.
I think to piggyback off that, Kenny, I think that idea for younger kids, it intimidates them when they're at this stage, very pivotal stage of their musical education, where they're usually working on one instrument. They're getting really good at it. They're most likely going to audition to a college in that instrument. They may not be 100% sure that like they want a career playing that instrument, but they feel that when they do venture into some other skill, that they are neglecting that instrument, and that like they're worried that potentially they're not able to like put all their beads in the other basket of the new skill that they're learning. And I think that a lot of teachers can sort of reinforce that that's okay in the process. Like you can still be working on your instrument, but you can start learn how to use Logic. You can start learn how to like write arrangements.
Oh yeah.
So
it all enhances one another. If you ever record yourself and you look at a waveform, are all the waves the same height? If you want to be really even, are they the same distance? Do they go on the beat? I mean, it'll really make you see how accurate and how precise you really are.
I love that you guys are also bringing in thoughts of skills that young aspiring musicians can be honing in on, because that's also something that I was pondering. It's a question that I see a lot, and it kind of scares me sometimes, because somebody will say, hey, I want to become a professional jazz musician, any advice? Oh my God, don't do this unless you absolutely 300% need to do this and love it so much. And it's like that's such a big bucket in itself, just any advice about that. But yeah, between the collaborations that I've seen you all do, I mean, Wolfpack, Chris Thiele, the whole Cory Wong, Dave Koz bit, and that story, and then Michael and Kenny, Hornheads working with Prince and so many other artists, and Alekos, your work with Anderson Paak, and I just love how this crew just and for myself, I came up in traditional jazz world working with some of my saxophone heroes, Phil Woods and Lee Konitz, and I think initially a lot of people just assumed I was just playing straight ahead music, which really that was such a key part of my development. But I have always loved a big range of music, and I just feel like with all of you, there's, whether we're talking about other artists or there's a real open, wonderful vibe. And
well, Grace, I think your fearlessness to explore has like really shined in like the last I mean, since I've known you, like I've never even, I knew you had that background. And I remember seeing you on like the cover of the like Downbeat magazine, or like some video when you were younger with Phil Woods. I was like, who is she? She sounds amazing. And I knew about you for a long time. And now and then I've seen you sort of, you're singing, you're sort of doing like pop, you're dancing, like and you're just doing what you feel like doing. And it's inspiring, I think, probably for a lot of your followers to be sort of, hey, I'm just gonna do this, and if it's cool, it's cool, and if it's not, I'll do something else. And I think like people should be living by that mentality in the art world.
Man, thank you. I mean,
Yeah.
I really, all those things make me so happy. And I think I feel like I express myself the most authentically. You know, if I play one note, but I do like a little dance move with it and it makes people laugh or smile, like I think then it becomes that much more like an easier way to express it. But man.
Well, I mean, it's a connection. You know, I mean, that's, you know, the whole thing about music is it's an interaction, and you know, we can sit here in our studios and make great music and share it, but like I said at the beginning, missing live performing, there's that extra aspect to it, to be able to really put your personality in it however you feel, you know, and put that out there and have it be, but still be grounded in this incredible musicianship, you know, is really a gift, and it's fun for everybody. That's when that's all clicking, you know. And versatility, like you guys are saying, I mean, that's kind of, it seems like that's more and more the key now, is in cross genres and interacting with different people, and learning, you know, the different you know, different programs, you know, like, I mean, video editing and all the rest of that. It seems like everybody is dabbling into that, and it all kind of connects in one way or another. And of course it expands your, you know, expands your own personal knowledge, but then it expands who you end up working with when you have those other things as well.
Yeah, I think another thing is that everybody should follow your dreams in your heart. I mean, these are really turbulent times, and throughout history, whenever there's been a really rough stretch of turbulent times, the artists, painters, musicians, whatever, have come together to kind of create a statement about the times and how to improve life and to get ahead and to move on and to move ahead. And so everybody is kind of a real statement where they can make music, and it'll represent something significant, especially in this time when everybody is together and, you know, all in the same boat. It's not like we're not all, you know, not part of the COVID thing and other justice issues. You know, it's all over the world. And so to be able to make music and to be able to present yourself and to make a statement, maybe nobody's heard it just like that before, that might impact thousands of people. So I would just say, keep doing what you're doing, and it's going to be important that you do it.
Oh, Kenny, I think that that was, you know,
And be vulnerable.
yes.
I need to work on that myself. You know, I always say that, like, you know, you gotta just like put your walls down, because I sometimes will get in my own head on social media. Like I'll go a stretch and I won't post something because I'm in my own head, and I need to get out of my own head. You know, and it happens to people. And I think like when there's a lot of things happening in the world, your mind is there and you're not really sure what to do. So I think be vulnerable.
I love it. You guys listening, we want to thank you for tuning in live and like commenting in. There's a lot of great comments. Somebody saying, at 35, is it too late to say when I grow up I want to be just like the Fearless Flyers and Delta Force? Asking for a friend.
I like
And
that.
I'm so happy y'all could jump on. It's so good to see all of you. Why don't we just close this? I mean, those words were so beautiful, but let's just tell people where is the best place to stay in touch with you, and if you have any projects or plugins or new brands of peanut butter that you want to promote and tell people about, and I'll do links to all I'll do links in the description. Then let's close out with that. Alekos, where's the best place for people to find you? And
So, you know, my full name is Alekos Syropoulos, so you can find me on Instagram actually under my handle Kosie McGee. Kosie comes from Kos, which comes from Alekos, which is a nickname given to me. So my new sort of like artist kind of producer name is Kosie. So I actually started making music that's kind of vibey, almost electronic, funky type jams. So I've put out some music last year, and I'm working on new music and working on collaborations with different singers and rappers. So I've been working under that sort of new name. So you can find me on Instagram under Kosie. You can find me on Facebook as Kosie. But as Alekos Syropoulos, that's kind of been my name as my session musician.
It's kind of been your name.
It's kind of been my name. Yeah. Yeah.
The last day.
Parents
Yeah.
had this idea to give you a
Yeah.
Rockin', Michael.
So yeah.
Rockin'.
Most of the stuff I'm doing right now is with Cory. So we've got some stuff. I'll let him talk about that stuff with the Hornheads but hornheads.com, and then that leads to my Bone to Be Wild music website or Facebook, Michael B. Nelson. But one of the things I'm actually trying to do, Hornheads have 4 albums, and 3 of them are pretty much just a cappella, 5 horns, and they haven't been streamed or been available on by download yet. So I'm getting ready to kind of put that up, and actually on the 4th album, Everything Blows, which is kind of, it's been sitting there done, and we haven't really put it out. But Cory, it's like a 2-sided thing, and Cory played on half of it, and so we got some plans for that coming up. So keep an eye out for that stuff.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because earlier I was listening to some Hornheads and I noticed you guys weren't on Spotify. Some great clips on YouTube, but okay, it's coming. It's coming.
It's coming.
I've been doing a ton of teaching. I have about 30 students. And so, I mean, literally, I'm working 20, 25 hours a week on students. Wow. But I'm also, the other 15 hours, or way more actually, is recording. So I'm doing a lot of different projects, whether it's with Cory or the MPG still is doing some stuff and some demos and other songs and other people. A guy from UK has put out a new album, and it's some really fun stuff. And so just a lot of different recording projects, kind of busy, quite busy.
Where can people keep in touch with you, and are you taking more students?
Well, it's
asking for a friend.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I maybe,
Maybe,
it's
you're gonna get a flood of.
Yeah, I am not teaching anymore. No. But it's fun. I mean, there's a lot of materials that you can use. If anybody has seen Play Score 2, if you're not into sight reading, it literally will take a picture of a piece of music and play it back to you.
Wow.
And so I use that. And then, there's iReal Pro, which is people have used for many, if you want to know how to, minors 7 flat 5, whatever, if you want to know what those chords sound like, put them on your iReal Pro. So doing a ton of different things. And then we've got some great Cory stuff coming up. Actually, we'll be doing a live gig coming up, but I'll let you talk about it. I did another gig before that, and I just realized it was with a gal named Jennifer Graham. We had a trio, so it was very intimate, but you got to play a lot. And I just realized, we talk about the football analogy. There's a lot of things you can do when you play, but when you record, then that brings you into game shape. But if you play in a live setting, that's almost like you can't duplicate that. So, if you can play in a live setting and you're safe and all that, do it, because you're just able to respond and react so much more. So just enjoying life is the best you can.
Yeah, man.
Love it. Cory?
Yeah. Well, Kenny, you just said we have a little gig coming up. There's an outdoor place in Minneapolis that's doing it right, doing it safe. Okay. I went back over there personally myself just a few days ago to scope him out. I surprised him. I showed up wearing my mask and my sunglasses and my hat. I'm like, hey, what's going on? He's like, hey, we're not open. It's like, I'm just checking out the scene. He's like, wait a minute, are you Cory? It's like, yeah. But I wanted to make sure that they had their tables set apart enough where I felt comfortable and where I'd feel comfortable asking my fans. So there's a place called Crooners that we're playing in Minneapolis at the end of the month. And yeah, I've just been working on a bunch of writing. I have a new acoustic record that I recorded in April that I have the first half that just came out this week. The second half will come out next month. And Michael and I have been writing a bunch more stuff together, which is the things that I was writing at the beginning of quarantine. In the month of March, I wrote 15, 16 tunes. It just kept coming. And when I was in the creative flow, it was the sort of thing where, and I always talk about this, creativity not being a gas tank that empties, but a flower that blossoms. The more that you water it, it just gets bigger and keeps going. So we were in a nice flow, still kind of on the tail end of that. Now just getting logistics ready to hopefully get in and actually record some of the stuff, taking the correct precautions to be able to get in a room with other people. And that's
do we have a theme song yet, Cory?
I got it. It's a voice memo. It's a voice
Okay.
memo. I have to make the actual demo.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff going on, and Wolfpack has been doing a slow drip of the new album this month or this year. Flyers obviously have been doing the medium drip of a song a week sort of thing, which has been really fun. And yeah, it's great. It's been really, for us, because I've been healthy and staying away from basically everybody other than family. We've been healthy, and it's been pretty good here.
Nice.
Good. So glad to hear. And if people want to chat with me, I'm most active on Instagram at G Kelly Music. For anybody who's watching and interested, I, like Kenny, have been doing a bunch of teaching and really enjoying it. But doing it, I have an upcoming online workshop that is in a couple days on Wednesday, and we're going to get into chord tones and guide tone lines.
Nice.
So my favorite. So I'm going to give you a bunch of exercises and techniques. It's a 2-hour live program, and I bring some attendees on to try out the exercises and lots of fun stuff. Yeah, working on some music, just keeping healthy.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for taking the time. The comments are coming in saying thank you. This was awesome. Needed this. Love this. Thanks for taking the time to do this. And yeah, I know we went a few minutes over, but
Yeah.
such a groovy convo.
That's what family does,
That's right.
Family kind of hangs on a little longer. So
Such a groovy convo. Well, all right, everybody, we're gonna call it there. Be well, be safe, be healthy. So good to see you all.
Likewise, Grace.
Yep.
Thanks for setting it up, Grace.
Yeah, thanks, Grace.
Pleasure.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Great seeing y'all.
Highlight of my day, my week. All right, y'all.
All right, guys.
Peace.
Ciao. Bye.